Time for the news now. Thank you for staying. Now, in our first story, former Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Inusah Fuseini, is making a case for President Akakpo to suffer the consequences of his actions following the Supreme Court decision describing the forced leave of the former Auditor General as unconstitutional. Domelevo was directed by the presidency to proceed on leave in July 2020. But the Apex Court, in a case brought before it by 9 civil society groups, unanimously described the directive as unlawful. Speaking on Newsfile, the former chairman of the Legal and Constitutional Affairs Committee of Parliament indicated the president had breached the Constitution and had to face the consequences.
Well, you think that only the court believed that he had breached the Constitution? People believed that what the president did was a breach, a fundamental and violent breach of the Constitution. They drew the president's attention to that. The president was adamant. In fact, when Domelevo himself drew the attention of the president to the fact that he was breaching the Constitution, it attracted the eye of the president. He escalated his leave. There was impunity. I'm actually waiting to read the judgment, whether the court will not describe that act as an act of impunity. Then proceeded on leave, barricaded his doors. I mean, what again do you think?
The president had lawyers who were advising him. Domelevo also had lawyers who were advising him. So if the two disagree...
So who were advising the CSOs?
And they also had their lawyers.
So you know, there was unanimity. I mean, in the public, and many people were taken aback. And I think that this is a good case where we should hold the president responsible.
So anytime the president takes an action, and the action is found to be unconstitutional or in violation of some law in this country, it means he has breached
He must suffer the penalty.
He must be subject to impeachment.
He must suffer the penalty for that. He must suffer until we begin to hold our presidents responsible, accountable, and not give excuses for their acts of impunity. Then we are not going to make progress. That's why I don't think that this decision must be prospective.
But a former Deputy Attorney General, Joseph Dindiok Penka, thinks otherwise. He argues the president did not act willfully, hence the decision of the court cannot be the basis for an impeachment.
We're able to establish that at the time of writing this particular letter and asking the person to proceed on leave, the president was deliberate and willful and knew that what he was doing was unconstitutional and went ahead to do it.
How and at what point?
Are you able to establish that?
How and at what point do we determine judicially that a conduct of the president is in violation of the Constitution?
I mean, if you put it before the court makes a pronouncement.
Yes, so the court has done in this case.
Yes. So I'm saying that the court's pronouncement will now guide us.
Without consequence.
No, but the court, you see, one thing I have to state also is that, unfortunately, all 3 of us are lawyers. You know that there have been landmark cases in this country that we go to court for just declarations, after that we go celebrating, and no consequential orders are made. Salah is one. And other cases which have followed. So in this particular case, it was for probably the plaintiffs to seek certain reliefs. And you remember that...
To seek a relief for the impeachment of the president?
No, not impeachment of the president.
No, they are talking about reliance on the judgment that the president acted unconstitutional. He was wrong. On the basis of that, they say he has breached the Constitution. So, once he has violated it...
And the point is this. Again, you know, if there is a breach and you want to trigger the process of removal of the president, there's a process.
That's correct.
Yeah. There's a process. And you also need certain numbers, even in Parliament.
No, but what we're interrogating here now is that, is this a basis for triggering impeachment? My
position is that it is not.
Okay.
And I have stated the reason why it is not. I'm saying that it must be willful. Because if I say that, for example, I acted in good conscience and I acted in manners that was in the interest of the country, I did not actually have in contemplation that my act will be unlawful at the end. And remember that it is only the Supreme Court that has the power to declare that your act is unconstitutional. So after litigation, they have declared that the act of the president is unconstitutional and etc. When in fact, and in belief, at the time of actually writing this letter, he was convicted that what he was doing was in conformity with the Constitution. So you cannot establish that willfulness. So I'm saying that it is not the basis, it cannot be the basis to trigger the removal of the president.
Is it
but if you do, then of course you must comply with the dictates of the Constitution.
Is it important?
The New Patriotic Party, Sammy Awuku, has ranked all presidential aspirants of the NPP ahead of former President John Mahama. He says the track record of the NDC flag bearer for election 2024 does not justify his return as president. Mr. Awuku has, however, advised members of his party to restrain from denting the image of any of the aspirants in the heat of the campaigning for the flag bearership. He was speaking at the launch of a support fund for youth in the Kwabre East NPP.
8 people have so far picked nominations to contest the presidential race of the NPP. It is expected that more known figures who have declared intentions to contest the race will show up to pick forms in the coming days. The main opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, has already elected John Mahama as their aspirant for the 2024 presidential election. But Sammy Awuku believes the opposition party's candidate is no match to any of the NPP's aspirants, as he declared his support for Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia.
We need to look beyond just talking tribal and religion, especially with some of the writers that I see. Clearly, it's not the election of a pope. It's not the election of the next cardinal. It's the election of a next political leader. So you need to weigh all of them coming. And I have stated here today that all the aspirants on any day, for me, will be a better candidate than any candidate that the NDC will bring. However, I'm looking at somebody who can make it easier for me to cross the finishing line. And that is why I said that me personally, I will make a choice for Dr. Bawumia. And I have said that. So the NPP, what the NPP is seeking to do by breaking the 8 is technically a continuation of the policies, the programs, and the vision of the party and government.
Sammy Awuku is calling on party supporters to ensure campaigns are carried out fairly without denting the image of any aspirant.
That I don't want anybody to be attacking any candidate. If you like the Honorable Akoto Afriye, speak positively on his achievement, his success story, and why he'll be a good candidate. If you want the Honorable Alan Chemat, if you want Kwabene Japon, if you want Boache Japon, you want Dr. Bawumia, you want this, speak about their positive attribute, their contribution towards the government and the party, and how they can help us to cross the 8. And so for me, I think that internal cohesion, maintaining party discipline will be a very key element in the NPP's quest to break the 8. But I have no doubt in my mind that when we are done with the primaries, those of us who are former will get onto it properly. We know how to win elections.
Meanwhile, the youth wing of the Kwabre East NPP has launched a fund to support party members in need. Youth organizer Silas Banjesi says they are energizing the party for the next election.
The youth wing has a number of patrons, about 12 to 15 people who support us. And as you heard when we were launching the fund, every month the patrons have pledged that they will donate an amount into the fund to help us, to help the youth in terms of need. Those who need support in terms of scholarships, those who need support in terms of paying school fees, those who need support in terms of even buying forms to go to school. It's an issue. So I believe that if they donate to the fund every month, we'll be able to sustain the fund and help grow the fund.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Kumasi.
In our next story, a non-governmental organization, Pencils of Promise, has supported the whole central prisons in the Volta region to provide education to inmates. The organization donated academic materials and furniture to the penal institution to be used in training the inmates.
As part of a rehabilitation program for inmates of the whole central prison, the Complementary Education Agency extended its programs to the facility. The agency was, however, handicapped in ensuring effective delivery because the facility lacked basic education training materials.
A lot of this type of educational system is being adapted in other prisons all over the country, and they are getting a lot of things from organizing classes, and some to the extent of writing the BECE. We were here when the complementary education agencies visited us, and then we put our request before them that this is what we need, because we started something here already, but we lack the materials and the other instruments that will help us convey the education to the prisoners.
A non-governmental organization, Pencils of Promise, which is vested in promoting equal access to education, provided the facility with basic academic materials to be used in training the inmates. The items included textbooks, notebooks, exercise books, teachers' resource packs, whiteboards, markers, whiteboard cleaners and furniture, among others. Freeman Goba is the country director of Pencils of Promise.
We also think that this is an opportunity for us to explore this opportunity for future development of maybe a plan to also support inmates in the prisons in the regions that we work with. So for us, it's the first step to maybe venture into an area that we are not known for, and we hope that we'll be able to sustain this. We would appeal to some of our donors to see if they can consider extending their hands to these vulnerable groups that we have identified through the Complementary Education Agency.
The Volta Regional Secretariat of the Complementary Education Agency lauded the gesture by Pencils of Promise.
So, meaning we are telling the world that complementary education has no excuse to say there are no learners for them to go and facilitate on. They are there. Our destiny is carved in our hands. The resources have been given to us. It's an operational period from 2023 to 2027. So within this period, you will see it. Our offices are open. We extend our appreciation to Pencils of Promise as well. We hope this is not going to be the end.
Fred Kwame Asari, Joy News. Oh.
Now, as part of its 30th anniversary, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice has organized a 2-day free medical health screening program for 300 head porters in Accra. Commissioner for Shraj, Joseph Whittle, explained the organization specifically chose head porters because the country owed them development, as a majority of them were forced to live on the streets due to the harsh economic situation in the country. There is more in this report.
We are sleeping outside. We don't have a room to sleep. And you know, by this time, there is mosquitoes around everywhere. So even if they treat them once, we are still going back to where we are staying. And it will still bite us.
Mamadou Kanda, a head porter from the northern region, made the difficult decision to leave her hometown in search of better opportunities in Accra. Unfortunately, life in Accra has proven to be extremely challenging, primarily due to the high cost of living. Mahamadou and other head porters like her are forced to sleep on the streets.
Some of us here, we have educated, and some they haven't educated. And most points for me like this, I've completed essays. But because of financial issues, that's why I'm here. And all of us, we are still sleeping outside. We don't have anyone to support us.
Back in 2019, the government pledged to provide hostel facilities for head porters to offer them a decent place of living. However, this promise remains unfulfilled, leaving Mahamadou and her colleague in a vulnerable and dangerous situation. Therefore, want government to honor its commitment and provide them with the promised facilities to ensure their safety and overall well-being.
And the most important is that as we are here, we don't have place to sleep. So we are pleading or asking government to get a comfortable place for us so that we can be hiding ourselves while working small, carrying our kaya.
Okay, that's what I was saying, that they say that they will build hostel for them. I don't know, if they help them for that one, it will be good.
In a bid to address the plight of these head porters, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, STRAJ, in partnership with the Nyaho Medical Center, are now offering free medical screening for these head porters. Commissioner of STRAJ, Joseph Withall, stated that the results of these screenings will serve as a basis for engaging other organizations to offer assistance and the necessary treatment for other health conditions discovered among the head porters.
So we picked the Kaye.
We apologize for the end quality of that video, but that's how we cap off the news this morning on the AM show. Do stay with us. Abu Sakara Foster of the National Interest and Movement joins us next for the newspaper review.